Here's a memory trick that you can use to answer a 6 marker on the required practical for energy changes. What I like to use here is Vitsha. So the question here says plan an investigation to find the order of reactivity of 3 metals. You should use the temperature changes here when each metal reacts with hydrochloric acid. So what you're going to do is you're going to get each metal and you're going to react it with the acid and you're going to record the temperature change. The higher the temperature change, the more reactive that metal is. So in Vitsha, the V first stands for volume, which basically tells you to measure the volume of hydrochloric acid. How are we going to measure the volume? We're going to use a measuring cylinder. Next, we have the I. You can use that to remind you insulation, which basically tells you you have to use an insulated container here to make sure that energy isn't lost to the surroundings. So what we usually like to use in this type of investigation is a polystyrene cup. So we add the hydrochloric acid to a polystyrene cup. You can also mention a lid if you want. Next, we can mention T, which stands for temperature. And that reminds you to measure the initial temperature of your acid using a thermometer. Now you're ready to add your metal in, and the S here is to remind you to stir. So once you add the metal in, you have to constantly stir the metal with the acid so that it reacts with the acid. So we can say here, add a metal to the acid and stir the mixture. Now what you'll see here is the temperature of the mixture will increase. So that thermometer reading will keep increasing. So you basically wait for it to reach its highest level, and that's the temperature that you need to note down. So the H here in Vitsha is for highest, which tells you to note the highest temperature reached by the mixture. This is an indication of how reactive the metal is. The higher the temperature, the more reactive it is. The A is for again, basically reminding you to repeat this process. We've got 3 different metals here, so you need to keep doing it for each metal. So we can say repeat the process for each metal, and we need to talk about the control variables here. What do we need to keep constant for each investigation? We want to keep the mass of the metal constant and also the volume and concentration of the acid. So let's mention that as well. Keep the mass of the metal and the volume of the acid constant. You can also mention concentration if you want there, but what we have there is enough to get you 6 marks.